kind of the focus of what I do every day is to try and figure out, it's problem solving, right? It's problem solving, it's visual problem solving, it's trying to create a story using images, and that way you can have some fun designing the images and creating, being creative and creating your story, right? That's all what it's about. And I wanted to highlight a couple of things and also take your questions too. So I get hit up a lot by people, probably because they find us online, they see us in the community, they see me around, and some people have read my book, and it's really nice that I get some comments from people who find me. They find storyboard art that way, and they really like some of the material that's in that book. And it basically that was a primer of how to get into the story industry, and talking about techniques that I think were not easily or readily covered in other books and other materials. A lot of people talk about the image, the composition, drawing skills, all that stuff. But remember, this is a mix of being a story artist, is a mix of many different disciplines. And in the book I wrote that it's kind of a mix of ingredients, right? You're talking about drawing skills and compositional skills, traditional art skills, and then you're also talking about storytelling and writing skills. So there's structure involved there. You have to know that stuff. Film language, cinematography, and the film language, how things cut, how pacing should be designed, framing, where you're doing a wide, medium, and close shot and using varieties there, where to place the camera. All of that is included with becoming a story artist. So it's not just about drawing. People think sometimes that it's about drawing pretty pictures and having a really awesome illustration. And yeah, it can be that. And it can be about designing really cool concepts when you do your images and your storyboards. But it's also a mixture of other things there too. And that's why I said it's a problem solving. You get a problem, a visual problem that you have to describe in the best way possible, the most unique, the most exciting way possible for your audience of how an event is going to occur. And we like to highlight the classical things that happen in a story, which is about conflict, which is about resolving issues between characters. You have interpersonal conflicts, you might have external conflicts, and this is what makes life exciting. I find it fascinating too, because I think just as human beings we have this natural tendency to want to find drama in our lives, right? How many people out there, how many of you guys have done that? You caught yourself actually seeking out some kind of drama that you probably shouldn't be involved with anyway, but it's that excitement of getting through a conflict and having to resolve that. It's like everybody wants to be a hero, right? And they're a hero of their own story. That's one of the tenets that we talk about there too. So anyway, I just want to remind people about that stuff, and also take your questions, because we got a lot of business questions, especially now, career focused questions for people who are looking to get into this and trying to understand how to navigate the industry, especially in these kind of uncertain and random times that we're having now. It's funny, even before, let's say you got viruses and you got, let's say, social upheaval, that people had trouble getting into the situation. They're struggling, right? And looking back on it, that was like the most normal and easy thing you could have ever imagined. That situation was somewhat predictable, and yet people still found it difficult. So we want to kind of unlock some of that mystery and give you guys a leg up so that you can really take advantage of some of the opportunities that present itself for you. Now, I'm of the mindset as well that, like, if nothing opens up, if the doors are completely closed and you can't actually get your foot in the door, right, the proverbial foot, you're going to have to kick that door open somehow, okay? And you either dig under it and go under that, you go around it, or you break a wall that's nearby so you can break a hole through and get into where you need to be, right? So that metaphor, you have to think about it and look at what we are doing as in your career strategy to get to where you want to be. And if you're hitting walls, so say you're getting barriers placed in front of you and you get rejections and you're not getting traction about any of the things that you're trying, that's a clear sign that you need to switch strategies. We talk a lot about networking. That's one of our tenets. And yeah, we can talk technique all day long and career, but networking is one big thing, is having to understand how you actually make connections with people and show work that you've created to these people and get your foot in the door and get in the industry. There's a certain technique to that. And it's not just like having awesome images and all of a sudden people are going to give you a bunch of phone calls. That doesn't necessarily work that way. And I'd love to hear what you have tried that might have hit some roadblocks, or maybe you've done some things that actually have been successful. I'd love to hear that too, because we should all be sharing these kinds of things, and it comes down to common sense, right? So back to that recipe that I was talking about with the whole mix of like art skills, technical skills. That's one I didn't mention before, but there are technical skills as far as understanding the programs and the software and knowing how to use the tools, whether it be on paper and using marker or pen and ink or any of that stuff, or using digital tools and actually using something like Procreate and your iPad or tablet to sketch on. All of those things you have to understand. It's really not that difficult once you practice a little bit and you break it down. Then you got your film language and your cinematography skills and all of that you want to be doing, and you put that in there. So in addition to this, you also have to think of the common sense things when it comes to career stuff, how you present yourself, how you approach other people and companies especially, and there are ways to do it. Now, it's actually quite simple. If I didn't have any clue and I had to start all over again, the one thing that I think is really easy to research is look at other people that are doing what you want to do. All you have to do is do a search on Instagram and find story guides. Just go in there and sketch something, look for somebody who's doing some sketches or story stuff, and you're going to find a bunch of people that are already working. People love to post their stuff, even if they can't post the stuff that they're working on. They have in their profile says, I'm a story artist at DreamWorks, I'm a story artist at Disney, I'm a story guy at whatever studio, and follow them and understand what they're doing to actually get into the business. So you want to use their example as a clue into how you get into this, right? So that's the first step is like emulating what people are doing and looking at their LinkedIn profile and just doing some research. It is so much easier nowadays, because back in the day when we didn't have the internet, yes, I remember when we didn't have an internet, you had to do what you could. Like that's when you had to like look up books and all that kind of stuff. Nowadays, it's so easy to just look online and research somebody and figure out where they are and what they're doing, what their profile is. So do that. That's a start. And then, we're here as a resource too. I got a fabulous note, and I can't wait to respond to this guy who was in our mentorship, and he said he really took advantage of some of the resources we had at Storyboard Art, and especially to negotiate rates and actually land a gig. So that was excellent. That really lifted my day to hear that note. Cool. So big shout out to everybody here. I just want to say hi, and I'm glad you guys are joining me on these chats. And let me get right into some of these questions, because I think it's important that we start answering some of the things that you have on your mind. So here we go. Let me start with you, Polar Bear 1700. Can you give your opinion on getting in via post-production as an assistant editor, then segue into storyboarding? Yeah, it's an awesome question. And that happens a lot. We get that a lot of people who might come in from different discipline and they want to transition to story. Here's the lowdown with that. If you're already doing a production job, like you're talking about being an assistant editor, but you can replace that line of assistant editor with concept artist, with animator, with even producer, right? Some people come from production and they want to go into story. If you're already in a studio and you're in that place and you're being a contributor to the project, there's a couple things that happen that you need to keep in mind of. If you make a switch to the story department, which is not exactly a direct correlation. So if you're an editor and you're in there for post-production stuff, it's not like an easy transition. They're not going to think of you immediately as an editor going into story. They might somewhat consider if you're already doing art skills, like if you're a concept artist and then you move on to storyboarding, you would have to create a portfolio and show them you can do your work and do that. As an editor, you're not necessarily creating images and using your draftsmanship and your skills your visual skills to create images. You're sitting there editing stuff on, Avid or Premiere or any of those things. So that is not exactly related to storytelling. So there you have a little bit of an uphill battle. And what I wanted to also comment on is that, let's say you do make it, you show them that you're going to be a story artist and you're going to be able to contribute. You might even be able to get an entry level. What happens is you leave a void in your assistant editing position or your concept art position, wherever else you came from. There's a hole there that now they have to fill, and you were probably pretty good at that, right? Otherwise they wouldn't have hired you. So keep that in mind, that it's almost a little bit of an inconvenience for the studio that you might fill the story artist position, but now you left a void where you were. So it's almost like they would prefer that you stay where you are. Now I'm just generalizing, so each case is individual, and you have to look at all the circumstances there. But one way to do this, if you're an assistant editor and working production or a non-related discipline, is actually to switch companies and switch projects. So you would put a portfolio together and actually apply to an outside studio and land that gig. Again, you'd have to do this in a delicate way, make sure that you're not stepping on the toes of anybody in your current job or your current production. And that just goes for professionalism all the way through, right? So that's one way to do it. I do find it does happen, right? It can happen. And like I said, sometimes it's easier if you're already in the art department, which is considered somewhat an arm of storyboarding and storytelling. And that is one way to make it. And that's somewhat easier, right? So just keep in mind that there's a couple ways to do it, and I do recommend that, like, moving on and trying a different company. I think that's probably going to be the easiest way to do that. And again, same rules apply. You got to put a portfolio together, you got to make contacts, and you got to follow through with all of that stuff. So hopefully that helps you there. Great. This is a cool batch of questions here. And let me read some of these comments here on Facebook for a sec. Love it. Hey guys, big what's up to all of you out there on Facebook, Chad and Joseph and Moy. All right. So let me answer Moy's question here. I have a question. If you send your demo reel and you don't hear from them, how long should you wait to send a follow-up email? Good question. So demo reel, same thing. So if you send a portfolio or any kind of email response, you might send them a link to your online portfolio, your website, included with your demo reel, and you don't hear anything back. I would look at the position description. Usually they publish these things online or on their website, and see what date that they were looking to hire people for. Usually within about a month or two that they've already found a candidate. It really goes that fast. The reason why is because most of the time they begin that search internally in the company. They'll start asking around the people who are already in the story department. They say, hey, do you know anybody who's available? We'd love to bring in your friends, because that's networking, right? And I do that a lot. People, especially last couple jobs I've had, whenever they had an opening, the first thing they do is like, hey, we got story openings. Who do you know who's available? And then we'll search around our own network, and I literally call around and ask people if they want to come in, and if they're available and busy. If they're free, then put a portfolio together and apply. That doesn't mean you actually get the job, but it's much easier if you get a recommendation from somebody else. So how long do you have to wait for a reply? It all depends. Let's say you turn something in, the job post is new and fresh. Probably within about 2 weeks, I think, is a good time frame. Again, it varies on company to company. And what I would do is send a nice diplomatic email and say, hey, turn in my demo reel on this date. I haven't heard anything back. I just wanted to inquire if there was any updates on the job position. You could say something like, I'm really interested, or here are some more supportive material. That's probably a better way to do it, in case you were interested in my qualifications and my portfolio, et cetera, right? So you draft a nice diplomatic email and you send it to them, and you hope to get a response. If you still don't get a response, well, then maybe just chalk it up as, that job was not meant for you. Surely if a month goes by and you still haven't heard anything, do that and send them an email reply. Now, a lot of times you don't have an email. A lot of these things you fill out a form online as a candidate, and you kind of hope that they'll contact you. Again, this is where networking comes in. The best way to do this, if you have a contact inside or you can somehow meet with the people who are looking to hire you, that way you can make a personal connection and you can ask for their contact information, and you can make a you can direct message these people by email most of the time, or even give up a quick phone call, and then talk to them that way. Even most people I know are pretty straight shooters, and they'll either they won't just not answer you, but they'll give you a response and probably just be short and sweet. Unfortunately at this time we're not your qualifications didn't match our position. Thanks for applying. They might give you a quick line like that. That means basically means no. So then again, keep that contact hot. That doesn't mean that eventually you won't get in there. It just means that particular moment it didn't happen for you. So this happens all the time. It's just a matter of like luck sometimes. So don't feel so bad if that happens. Okay. Let me go to another question here. Little Sea Salt. I've seen a figure drawing for animation. Is this similar to type of a figure drawing in storyboards? Let me preface the answer here because first off, yes. So let me describe what we're talking about here. So figure drawing for animation. I think figure drawing is figure drawing is figure drawing. If you're drawing from life and you're drawing from a model, that's one of the best things that you can do, either if it's realistic or gesture poses or learning your anatomy or whatever. That's fantastic. I would also recommend drawing the clothes figure and costume figure, so you understand not only the nude figure underneath and the anatomy underneath, but how the clothes and the folds and all the creases and stuff land on the body and the landmarks there, and how things wrap around. You get ellipses and all that stuff with your human characters. So yes, that now when you say figure drawing for animation, most of the time they will emphasize gesture drawing, which are shorter poses, 5 minutes or less, that are really, really dynamic and exaggerating the pose and really pushing the character of the model that you have in front of you. And that's a really great exercise. Highly recommend it. And you end up building up your chops, and you're able to do this in a much quicker way and remember that stuff, so you're able to do those gestures for whatever you need, whether it be animation or storyboard. So yes, there is a lot of overlap there. And I would recommend, if you're looking for some kind of figure drawing experience, the first place to start would probably be for animation. And I would stick to the gesture drawing and quick action poses that show off a lot of exaggerated dynamic action. Okay. Now, the reason I had to think about my reply here is because I also wanted to keep, one thing I want to plant about that for storyboards and storytelling. Animation and storyboards overlap a lot. So if you are a 2D animator and you have a really strong sense of posing and drawing and draftsmanship, you can easily move on to learn the story skills, and you understand that because you already understand the drawing part and the posing part and the squash and stretch and all that good stuff. But there is a point to be made that there's a simplification that goes on with storyboards that I really like, and that's one thing that I'm tending towards. Is the graphic simplification of creating a storyboard is taking the figure drawing and the gesture drawing, but then reducing that to somewhat of a quick and even more symbolic and quick shorthand, so that you can get a really strong pose in a very, very quick way. But it doesn't necessarily have all the figure drawing and anatomical information. What you're trying to do is get that pose off. And if you look at any story reel, I was just looking at the Spider-Verse movie story reels and the storyboards there. It's a fantastic movie and fantastic storyboards that happen in that film. And you can just see the dynamic action there is so wonderful. It's really, really good. And all the board artists were doing really, really good work there. So it's like this, it's a sketchy style, but it is really exaggerating the pose. So yeah, figure drawing, start there. Sorry for my long-winded answer, but that's one of the ways you do it. If you guys have any tips, by the way, don't let me just mouth off on this stuff. I think if you guys have any tips on this, please chime in and let us know. But that's a really good question. One thing is just keep drawing. Any opportunity you have to draw from a live model, do it. Even if you can get together with a couple of friends, like if you have some art friends that you're all trying to improve together, man, go ahead and meet on like Thursday night, and each of you exchange poses together. How about that? Forget the COVID stuff. Make sure that you're healthy and all that. They come together, draw yourself, or go outside. Who cares? Have social distancing, and you're in the backyard, and each one is like separated, but you can still look at them. And you can still draw, and then you draw your pose. Okay. So anyway, so you don't really need to go to a figure drawing class. Now, if you if that fails and you can't go out and you're on the COVID lockdown, go online, man. There are a ton of awesome poses and photography, and the first one that I recommend is has now become a good friend is Bodies in Motion by Scott Eaton. That guy created the most amazing website when it comes to action poses, and you can sign up for free. There's a free account, so go for that. That's a really, really great resource, and there's others out there too, but I really like that one in particular. Cool. So we got a follow-up question here from Moy. What do they mean when they say on their job post, must demonstrate proficiency in the style of the show? Does that mean if it's DuckTales, I have to be able to draw the characters or the feel of the show? Yeah, you got it, man. That is exactly what they're talking about. You need to show examples of poses and storytelling compositions that can directly relate to the work that you're going to be applying for. So you did a perfect example here of DuckTales. Hopefully you guys know what that show is all about. It's like a Disney cartoony style, drawing like Huey, Dewey, and Louie and those Donald Duck characters. So you should be able to draw that either the classic Disney style or the kind of modernized, duck versions that they have now. And you should be able to do that really well. You don't necessarily have to draw duck stories or do a duck sequence. I wouldn't. Me as a director, I don't work on that show. I've never been part of that, but I would just assume that what you want to do is show cartoony and similar drawing technique that you're going to find on that show in your portfolio. And if you do have a couple of duck examples in there, we'll just throw those in, right? That's what I'm saying. Also, like in your follow-up email for these guys, you might say, oh, I really want to apply for this DuckTales show. Here are some examples that I drew of your characters to try and learn how they act and how the poses are. And you might send them a page or two of your gestures of drawing these guys in storytelling poses. By the way, make sure there's story included. Don't just draw random T poses of Donald Duck or Scrooge McDuck. You want to do it that shows a story, right? That you put a gag in there. You actually make it story related. That's a nice clue to have it. But yeah, absolutely, you need to show that. And if you're doing an action show, show action poses, show action boards. If you're doing a comedy show, show gags, show things that are going to make people laugh, because that's what they're looking for. That's kind of the style of the show that they want. So you want to show that in your portfolio. That's a really good question. I think some people might doubt what they actually need to put in there. Cool, great discussion going on here with all you guys on Facebook there. Let's go to some of these on Instagram. So awesome question here from Polar Bear 1700. How important is having a website rather than an Instagram account or Twitter account? In other words, is one preferred over another, or have all of them? I'm sorry. Is one preferred over another, or have all of them, or does it even matter which one you have? Look, the bottom line here is you got to make it easy for your client to view your work. Okay. So when we're talking about a social media account or a Blogger account or a Squarespace, WordPress, any of those things that you can get, a Weebly, you can get that for free, I think. These are all resources that you can have. So I think it's crucial that you have a website. Just me personally, I think you need to have a website. It's so easy nowadays. You can either get it at a very low cost or for free to have a portfolio website. You can do a Behance website, and you can do ArtStation kind of website, right? People have done that a lot. The thing is, you want to make it easy for people to look at your work. That's what Instagram and ArtStation do really, really well. I think those two, as far as artwork is concerned, and for artists, I think those two are probably the front runners right now. Twitter, I don't necessarily like that much because it's hard to find the work. It's like buried in with like other feeds and Donald Trump posts and all that kind of stuff. What you want is you want to have it clear so that whatever you're posting is actually there on your feed and it's like just the images and showing storytelling, especially when it comes to storyboards. If you're doing illustrations and stuff, maybe you can get away with something else. On your website, here's the key though. On your website, you can specifically show samples that you can't necessarily put anywhere else. So Instagram is not the best place to show a sequence of storytelling images. You can do like single frame images and maybe have a carousel of a couple of images for storyboards. I've done that on my feed. In fact, go to Sergio Paya's art and follow me on there. How about that? And you can see what I've done with. I do a lot of sketchbook stuff and I'm posting some illustrations, but I have done a couple of like carousel sequences of like one image to another and having like 5 or 10 storyboard images all together, and you can kind of like swipe to see them, right? So, but again, if you're going to do that, it's easier to do a slideshow thing on your own website that you can customize. And nowadays it's so easy. So I think having a website, it's really low cost and pretty cheap. I think, for you guys looking for an investment, I would say one of the best investments you can do is buy your own domain, whether it's your name or some kind of variation there. That'll cost you like 10, 15 bucks a year, and then with hosting, right? That's an investment, but it's pretty low cost. And then you could just add a WordPress or Squarespace to that. And yeah, you might have to pay a monthly fee here and there, but it's really valuable to have your own website because you can send people to a specific link. You can password protect things that are, under NDA or really important that you don't want to spread out on other social media accounts, right? So you can do these on other things, but if you don't have any of that, I would start with the free stuff: Instagram, ArtStation, and then maybe like a Facebook page where you have a bunch of your images and photos. So that, I mean, it's so easy, it's so basic that you should do that no matter what, because it's going to get your stuff out there, right? Yeah, so some people have a love-hate relationship with Instagram and Facebook, and there's all. I get it. There's no perfect thing. That's why I would recommend that if you really want to design your own stuff, you have to lay down a little bit of investment and go into design your own website. And even there, that's not perfect because the tech thing can be a hurdle. So so yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's go on to Valinky. I think it is. You're welcome. I'm happy to do these. Can I ask, where are the best places to begin meeting people and networking? So let's say COVID aside, I would recommend industry events if those things start up again. If they don't start up in person, you want to join up to the online events. This is a good place for me to place a plug for Lightbox Expo 2020. We are going to be there. We are one of the sponsors. And we're looking forward to doing an online event this year now instead of the in-person event. And that's fine. We are online anyway, so we're gonna just bring more people into the fold, and it's gonna be a lot of fun and probably get more reach that way. Whereas when it was in LA and other people who were coming from out of town, it was a little more difficult because you got to get tickets and hotel and travel and all that stuff. So at any rate, that's where I would begin. I would begin with online events. Certainly LinkedIn is a great place to start making connections and then reaching out to these people and actually interacting and doing that. Now, a couple of things, again, go to my LinkedIn and sign up and join, follow me and friend me or whatever it is on there. But here's the thing: I'm actually so buried in work, I don't really have time to boost up my social media profiles and stuff. So whenever people message me, it might take me forever to respond and that kind of thing. Or I direct people to something that I do look at every day, which is like storyboard art or my own email and stuff. So those are so you might hit that. You might get other people that just never reply to you. That's okay. But so let me just sum up here. Start networking online, and then the next one would be in-person events. The third one that I want to mention here is anything in your local area. Anything. I'm talking libraries, film festivals, the county fair. I don't care if there's artwork around and there's people that do sequential art or storytelling, any kind of comic convention, exposition, gallery show, any of that. Go there, sign up, be part of it, shake some hands, make some friends, and just tell them what you do, and actually just network. That's all it's about. Get out of your shell. Don't be shy. It really doesn't hurt that much. And guess what? You're going to make friends who are also interested in the things that you are. And those are the best friends to have. Guys who like movies, people who are into the same shows, they like artwork, they love the same artists that you do. And so all that, like, think of yourself as some kind of random outcast that nobody wants to talk to. That's not true. You're going to go up, you're going to say hi, you're going to shake somebody's hand, you're going to find out that they are actually interested and want to be your friend as well. So you can always use more friends. That's something very true. Okay, cool. I love it, man. Polar bear, you're awesome. You're drawing your dog, crows outside, squirrels, whatever you have in front of you, draw it. Right? It's easy nowadays. And if you have a lack of models and stuff, um, just do film sketches, film studies. Like watch your favorite movies, and you can watch YouTube, freeze frame it, just push pause and do a sketch of that composition. That's gonna come back to you. It's gonna improve your visual memory, and it's gonna help you understand how they did something to solve that visual problem. That's always really, really cool and important to do as film studies, right? Um, so question here from John Claude. Hey, buddy. I'm glad to have you here. Is there going to be a fee attached to the online event, Lightbox Expo? I don't know all the details right now. So I would just assume that there's probably going to be a free portion. Certainly with social media and that kind of thing, I would just guess that you would have a free portion there to attract people. And then what I'm assuming would also happen, any kind of conference or specific talk that they sponsor, you might have to pay an extra. I don't know. The entry fee to Lightbox last year, I think, was $50, and that's when you go and you show up in person, which is a great big expo event, and it's really beneficial and cool for what we're talking about here, which is networking, but also meeting people and getting inspired. Man, there was so many amazing people there, so it's really fun to get inspired. You see all the companies there too, and you can talk to those recruiters and stuff. So that's all good. I'm assuming if they have anything like that, there's going to be some kind of focus that they're doing. Let's talk about what we're doing, and we're also going to plan very closely with the Lightbox people and also sponsor some talks and events and hopefully have some guest speakers for you guys. So if and all of that, we like to do that as free as possible. So we do have paid stuff. In fact, that's how we keep our lights on is we have these courses, and you guys can sign up for those things and spend some money. But the real benefit comes from if you're just getting started in this, you just want to get in the game, then come to our free resources. All that stuff is super valuable, man. It's not free because it's lame. It's free because you're just lucky that you're going to get exposure to these things. So take advantage of it. All right. Speaking of which, why don't I talk a little bit as I should wrap up here real quick. But one way to wrap up is to mention that our visual story course, which is also for free, and I think there's really, really valuable information there. You guys should all sign up for that. Is Nick Sung, who's a Pixar artist and also an awesome badass storyteller, is going to be our guest presenter and a guest critiquer, looking at some of the work that we have in the visual story course. So that's coming up next week, I think. Let me look at my dates. Yeah, so we have a deadline for you guys to submit your work. Those are the assignments that are being done in the visual story course. That's coming up on Monday, June 15th. That will be the deadline for you guys to submit your work to get critiques by Nick. Okay, and then we're going to take those critiques. Nick's going to have a chance to review them. And then on that Saturday, which is June 20th, we're going to have a live chat with Nick, and he's going to give us his info and his opinions on the stuff that's been presented there, right? So so I love it. That is really fun, and we're gonna take advantage of all those things too. Right on, friends. Okay, so I think I'm gonna sign off here, and if you guys have any other questions or tips or just other networking things, I love seeing people pass around job posts. I love people pass around video links that are really cool and inspiring. Even cool movies. If a lot of the the really good ones that I haven't seen come from just like hearing it from friends and saying like, oh man, you have to check out this film, and that gets posted online too. So I love seeing that stuff. So give us your updates. That is always for me a joy to check out. And you can do that in our visual story course or on our platform. Just on direct message us at Storyboard Art here, and yeah, good luck with everything. And if you need to see the replay and you want to see what we've been talking about with these chats, go to our YouTube channel. You can see all of these videos that we've been doing so far. All right, friends. In the meantime, keep up the good work. Keep working hard. Keep working on those drawings, and keep talking about stories and watching films. That's what we do. That's what we like to do. All right, friends. Talk to you later. See ya.